I won't hold you. I won't fault you. It was, I'll take the blame. You my right hand. That's all right. But we got it. We kind of just started, so we're still kind of early. So let me get back to it here. This picture here is of my son with the Arizona Cardinals. And so, as I've said here, and what I'm doing this presentation is try to help you young athletes learn how and show you how we can help you get more exposure with the current college sports recruiting landscape, right? And if you all don't know, if you want to get yourself more exposure with the current college sports recruiting landscape, it starts with, first of all, you got to attend some camps. And I try to tell some parents on a regular basis, this has to start early, right? No later than middle school if you can help it, right? Or early high school, 9th grade, right? This will improve your exposure to college coaches. A lot of kids don't realize people don't know who you are. Why? Because you haven't shown up on campus at a camp, right? Or a visit, right? So you gotta help yourself. Parents, you gotta invest. Trust me. It means when I say invest, it's not just time, it's also your money, right? But also in communicating with your son or daughter's high school coach, letting them know, right, what your young athlete's goal is to play college sports and earn a scholarship. Okay. And so that puts onus on them. Okay. And I tell some people, I've had conversations with people and I tell some kids right now, by your junior year, if you've been playing sports at a high school, male or female, and you've been playing sports every year, and by the end of your sophomore, the start of your junior year, if you have not had a conversation with your high school coach about getting recruited for your sport, right, then they're probably not very involved in helping you get recruited. They should. My high school that I mentioned to you with Coach Davis at Clearwater Central Catholic, every year we met with every freshman that came in. Every year we met with every freshman and sat down with them, asking them how serious they were about playing football. And I also coached track with Coach Sean Watson, who was he was an Olympian. He was an Olympic sprinter and high jumper. As a matter of fact, Coach Sean Watson was the first person to beat Carl Lewis to break his win streak in the long jump. Coach Watson, I had the pleasure of coaching with him at CCC. That's how well known he was. He broke Carl Lewis' win streak in the long jump. But as I said, if your high school coach has not sat down with you to talk to you about getting a scholarship and the things that you need to do to get exposure, then more than likely they're not really involved with helping, And I tell some parents, find out while they're in middle school, find out what high schools are sending kids to college. And if you have to move, because I was about to relocate before little Jeff, this guy, you see him in this picture with the Arizona Cardinals. He was a quarterback in high school. He was all state, all everything, and went to Boston College to play quarterback for Coach Ryan Day, who's the head coach at Ohio State. Ryan Day recruited my son to go to Boston College. He sat in my house and had several meals in my house recruiting this young man that you see right here. But my son didn't have the pleasure of playing for Coach Day, because by the time he got there to BC, Boston College, his freshman year, Coach Day had went to the NFL briefly prior to his coaching career at Ohio State. But that's how my son got to Boston College, through Coach Ryan Day. But like I said, Coach Davis at my high school, we sat down with every incoming freshman. We didn't wait till their sophomore, junior year. We talked to every kid when they came in as freshmen, and we talked to parents, and we told them, if your son wants to play college sports, this is what it's going to take. We would break it down to them, right? So that's what you got to do. You got to attend camps, right? You got to get high level training, right? So you got to do your vetting with someone, right, who has the history and experience to help boost and improve your development, your student athletes' development in their sport. Coach Davis, when I got there, Coach Davis was known in our area as a quarterback guru for helping kids. He sent a lot of kids to Division I, 1AA, which is FCS Division I and Division II at the quarterback position. He trained a lot of young men in our area that got scholarships to play quarterback. And that's one reason why I took my son there, because he was a good quarterback growing up. And I knew he was the only one that could do that. And so that's why I started coaching with Coach Davis at Clearwater Central Catholic, and that's why my son was only going to play for him. And he, because of his age, he stopped training. He stopped, doing that personal training. But he had John Kaleo, who played at University of Maryland with the founder of Under Armour. They were teammates. And as a matter of fact, two of my college teammates, me and Coach Pearson teammates, played with Coach Kaleo at Montgomery Community College in Maryland prior to him going to University of Maryland. But this is where I'm explaining about where, as a parent, you got to invest. Every session my son had with Coach Kaleo cost me $100. And it got my son a Division I scholarship that cost over 4 years, or 3.5, because he graduated in 3.5 years. But that was, you're talking about $300,000-400 something thousand for that 4 years or 3.5 years he spent at Boston College. But I spent from 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, he would do about one session like probably every other week when he was in 7th, 8th grade. But then when he got to 9th grade, it was like every weekend he was getting trained with Coach Kaleo. And then his junior and senior year, all the way up to his freshman year in college, when he was playing quarterback, because he started as a freshman at Boston College at quarterback before switching to receiver. But I paid $100 with Coach Kaleo every time. He did that up to his freshman year in college, and it paid off. That investment in private school at Clearwater Central Catholic, but that investment that I put into my son and my youngest son, who decided he didn't want to play sports anymore because he was a really good baseball player and football player, but I invested in him as well for his academic scholarships and things that he achieved. But for talking about sports with Jeff, you got to do that, parents. So for any of you parents that are on here listening, you got to find someone to give some personal training to help elevate your young person's skill level and development. That's why you see the recruiting landscape. You see coaches, everybody's saying, "Oh, the transfer portal is hurting high school kids." Yes and no. The reason why I like the transfer portal today is because too many college coaches had too much power back during my time to where you couldn't just transfer anywhere you wanted to. They wouldn't, they didn't have to sign off on that. Now players have the ability to decide where they want to go transfer to if they decide they want to transfer, which I like best. But because of the new landscape, you got to figure out how to work. You got to figure out how to work through it. My thing has always been how I was raised. Don't complain about it. Figure out how to work through it. Figure out how to make this new way of doing things work in your favor, right? And so if you want to figure out how to have this work in your favor, then you got to get with people like us, or find someone in your area that you see that has a good name and trustworthy. Like I said, do your vetting, but you got to get some high level training, because these coaches' jobs are on the line to win, and to win right now, right? You watch football on Saturdays, you see LSU got beat. You saw Georgia got beat, right? And so these things these coaches are required to win and win big, because it's money, and this TV money and all these different things. And so that's why you'll see some coaches going to the transfer portal, and why some high school kids may not. But hey, I went Division II and had opportunity to transfer to Kansas State when Coach Lovett went there, but I didn't know much about transferring. I didn't want to put a burden on my mom to have to pay for anything, because I was on a full scholarship at Morningside. And I didn't doubt that I could have earned a full scholarship if I transferred, but because of lack of knowledge, I had a chance to go Division I and transfer, and because of lack of knowledge, I didn't do it. And so I don't want you to run into that situation. But like I said, there are still some college coaches that are recruiting more high school kids than transfer portal kids, okay? But you got to get that training. You got to get some high level training to make yourself look good. And then academics, okay? You need to have a 2.8 GPA or higher, okay? And as you see there in parentheses, LG Webster, preferred walk-on opportunity. This young man is like a nephew to me. This is one of my wife's best friends that she grew up with in South Carolina. And her son, LG, probably had well over 4.0 GPA. He was a smart kid, but he's a heck of a football player out of Nashville, Tennessee area. And he did exactly these things that I'm sharing with you tonight that I took my son through, that I had to learn myself and figure it out on my own when I got recruited. And so some of these things that I'm sharing with you now, of course, I've had to adjust some things because of the new recruiting environment with social media and all these different things. But LG is playing right now for University of Oklahoma as a preferred walk-on because he had a high GPA and he was a big-time ball player. He had some FCS opportunities that he could have taken and got full scholarships to go play FCS football. But he decided because he wanted to go into meteorology, and Oklahoma has one of the top meteorology programs in the nation, that he wanted to take that preferred walk-on. But when they saw his GPA, when the football coaches saw his GPA and knew at this moment they didn't have a scholarship to give him, and he had, as a matter of fact, he got academic scholarship money. He got like $15,000, $20,000 a year in academic scholarship because of his GPA being strong. And when coaches see that you can be that you're a good football player, a really good football player with a strong GPA, they're going to call, just like they called him and say, hey, we would like for you to work out. We would like for you to work out come. We saw that you got an academic scholarship and we think you're a really good football player. And this is SEC football. And I know last week or the week before, he was the scout team player of the week. And so he's building his resume while he's a preferred walk-on at University of Oklahoma right now. Okay, and sometimes you may not get that full football scholarship, but if you make sure you do your best in getting your GPA up high, you know, because that's a selling point as well. Because coaches know, like my son, he had a well over 3.335 GPA. These coaches know if you got very good academics, they don't have to stay behind you. They know that you're pretty well disciplined. That's what that shows. And because, as you know now, NIL, kids are being able to make money off their name, image, and likeness, right? Because it's a job. It is. College sports is a job, right? And so, and when you can have strong academics, they know you are probably a person who's dedicated to being disciplined, right? On and off the field. Okay, and then you need to start making contact with college coaches. And there's several ways to do that, you know, as you see here, through by email, social media, DMing coaches, right, and texting. Okay, and I'll talk more about a service that I'm able to provide because a lot of y'all can't hit what is it? It's almost 300, I think, or so Division I programs when you talk, you know, big time football. And I know everybody can't play Division I, but hey, you can go play NAIA or Division II and transfer very easy today than what it was when I was coming up. It's a lot easier to transfer. I know you might have a dream to play Division I, and because of the transfer portal, when you go play where you can go play and you dominate where you are for a year or two, and you get yourself in the transfer portal, because more than likely you're going to get an opportunity to go play Division I football if you are that guy, right? Or if you're that young lady in whatever sport it is that you play, right? So you got to make contact with coaches, and you got to get to these camps, because that's the first way you're going to make contact with coaches, is getting these attending camps, right? That's the way to do that, to fulfill that, is attending camps. You're going to do two birds with one stone. We're going to make contact with college coaches, and now I'm gaining exposure with these college coaches, and then I'm gonna find that coach on X and remind them, hey coach, I was at the camp. I don't know if you remember me, you know, but if not, I'm just want to touch base with you, right? And so that's what you do. You see these three young men, they played ball together. Anthony Brown played with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm trying to think who else. But he transferred after graduating from BC. He played at Oregon and took them to the Pac-10, Pac-12 championship. Number 21 to the left, to the right of my son, your left looking at it, Lucas Dennis. He played, he was a top All-American DB at BC. He wanted to play some, I think he got signed with the Bucs. He didn't get drafted, but he signed as a free agent with the Buccaneers. He didn't make it there. Then he went on to play UFL and started at UFL with the, I think the St. Louis team, UFL team, and then signed with the Atlanta Falcons and spent, I think, another year or so with the Atlanta Falcons. And that's my son in the middle. And that's a Boston College picture when they were, I think they were like sophomores that year, freshmen or sophomores. So the current college sports recruiting landscape continue, as I said, it starts with you also filling out as many college athletic questionnaires, right? NCAA or NAIA at the, levels, right? And when you do that, now you're in their database. So when you parents get your kids filling out questionnaires, even right now as they're in middle school, you're now in that college athletic programs database. And then when you show up at football camp, or your young female basketball player or softball player or volleyball player, because you filled out that questionnaire, and then all of a sudden you pop up at a camp in that sport. Now they're like, oh, now they can put a name together, a face with a name, because you're in their system, right? And you can let them know when you get there for the camp. Hey, I filled out the questionnaire prior to coming to this camp, coach, right? And they're gonna know, okay. And then if you're standing out at that camp, right? If you're looking good at that camp, and you're standing out as one of the top athletes there, and you did the questionnaires, right? And you bring it to their attention, now they know to look for you even more. Now you're gaining more exposure, right? Because you're in their database. So you got to fill out as many college athletic questionnaires as possible. Make sure you do your NCAA eligibility with the NCAA Eligibility Center, right? You can start that, I think, as early as like 8th or 9th grade, if not sooner, where they get an NCAA number, ID number. And when you do that, you want to be sure you do the academic and athletic certification account, right? I think on average for just football, let me just tell you how much money the NCAA is making. There's on average about 140 million kids who fill out this academic and athletic certification account, and it costs about $100. So you do the math, right? Now they will do a waiver, right? And I think even if you don't have, they will do a waiver if you have your SAT and ACT scores. They will allow you to do a waiver for filling this out. But most people don't know that. But I do think if you didn't have your SAT or ACT scores, I think they still will give you the waiver later on if you apply for it. But most people just go ahead and just pay the $100 and they're just done with it. So we're just talking football alone. Those kids who want to play football every year, on average, 140 million kids fill out this form and pay $100. So that tells you what kind of money, and that's just football. We're not talking about how many basketball players fill it out and other, because you cannot get a full or any type of athletic scholarship without registering with the NCAA Eligibility Center. This is a requirement in order for you to have or to earn a full or even a partial athletic scholarship. You have to do this, right? And so that's something that I want to let you guys know up front, right? This is one of my nephews here that I brought like 3-4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, took him to NC State and Wake Forest to the left to get them some exposure, help them get some exposure. And what I want to tell people is I have financial aid background, right? I've been assistant director at several state universities in Florida and North Carolina. And I've been in this business for quite a long time. And I've had athletes sit in front of me in my financial aid office who gave up athletic scholarships because they wanted to come to a particular school. And I tell parents, school is so very expensive. You need to figure out what sport your kid enjoys, right? Don't burn them out in it. Make sure they do multiple sports so they don't burn out in one sport, okay? But sports is a foolproof education funding plan, right? Once I got my scholarship and I started working in financial aid, I knew I wasn't gonna pay all that money for my kids, whether they played sports or not, because I learned how to play this game of getting this education funded, right, without having to come out my pocket with a lot of money, because they were very good in their academics, they were very good in music and the arts, and they were very good in sports. And so I've honed in on that at an early age with both my sons to be sure, because of my experience that I had started in financial aid, and I knew I'm not doing a 529 plan, I'm not doing any of this, but I'm gonna invest in my kids in music, I'm gonna invest in my kids with their academics and camps, sports camps, because they had that skill in some sport, just knowing my kids. And so I invested that money to be sure when the time came for scholarships, that they would be able to get it for academics as well as sports if they wanted to. So if your kid is good in music, dance, cheerleading, Tumbling, they have scholarships for. Trust me. I'm telling you, do your research. They have them. And you want to encourage your young person, to use that skill set to pay for their education, whatever it may be, because there's money out there for them to receive that assistance, and lighten the burden on you parents from doing all this investing with camps and all this other stuff that you took the time to do, that this is your payback to be sure you don't have to come out your pocket with all that money to pay for their college education, right? Because you've done it already up front. Right. And so as you see here, parent support, encouraging, investing, and training is important. Just like I said earlier, I spent $100 every training my son did with Coach Kalel, right? And he was a quarterback guru. People came from out of the state of Florida to train with Coach Kalel. They came from all over the place because he was getting kids trained at the quarterback position and getting them scholarships. So it's important that you find somebody in your area. I'm able to travel. I do personal training. So if you want to reach out to Coach Smith and get some training, your parents, let them know, right? And parents, you got to be realistic with your student athlete. Okay. Be realistic. Okay. Some kids do need the one reason why you see the transfer portal being the way it is now, because as I said, the pressures of winning for these college coaches because of the TV money and all these different things. There are some kids that they realize coming out of high school, they weren't necessarily ready just yet. They weren't totally developed to be able to have that pressure put on them, right? That's on the coach to win. Okay. So some young kids just aren't ready. They need a year or two before that, right? To have all that pressure put on them, especially when you're talking quarterbacks and things of that nature. So we have to be realistic that, hey, if I tell some kids right now that I DM before we had this event, this free webinar in 2026 kids, if you don't have any offers, you should be here, right? If you don't have any offers right now, or if you don't have some multiple offers or offers that you think you should have, a lot of people should be sitting there. A lot more people should be sitting here, because I know I'm going to get calls or people are going to reach out to me after that February. There's a lot of people won't be signing in that early December. If you're not the top kid in your state or a top kid in your city or your county, right? Because top recruits, high school kids who get scholarships, they're in the top 3 to 500, right? The top 3 to 500 in the country in their recruiting class. And how you do that? When you become top in your state, and you got to start early. You become top athlete in your position, right? In your city, in your county, right? In your state. Get to these camps like I talked about. Get yourself exposed, okay? But let's be realistic, right? Where's your development? And you need somebody like myself who can help you see that, like where you potentially can be, right? And what's probably really going to happen, at what level you can probably potentially be. But the goal is you got to get your development so you can be that top kid in the state, be an all-state player in high school. High school coach support is important, right? And that got to start with parent engagement, right? That comes from you as a parent. Okay. If you as a parent, I've had to talk to some parents, they've come to me, oh, I don't think the coach is helping. I'm like, well, have you had a conversation with the coach? Oh, no, I haven't most people tell me they haven't had a conversation with the coach, whether they have a male or female athlete who's pretty decent. And when I tell parents, why haven't you had a conversation with the coach? Because if I had a conversation with the coach and nothing's happening, I'm transferring somewhere. I'm taking my kids somewhere, and you need to do that at least by their 9th or 10th grade year. I wouldn't wait. It's tough, unless you drop down and repeat a grade, reclassify yourself, but if by my son's 9th or 10th grade year, if I don't see some sort of change, and I know I'm not trying to tell the coach how to run his program, but I know when I first took my son, Jeff, to Cloverleaf Central Catholic, he's my oldest. When I first talked to Coach Davis about him playing quarterback, he was kind of like, a lot of people want their kids. I'm like, Coach, I'm not coming to you because I wish my son was good in another position. But he excels at quarterback. He's done it since Little League. He could throw the football, strong arm at an early age, know the game. he just took off. It just his knowledge, because he just loved it. Because when he was little, I took him with me to train. When I was still pursuing pro football, he got exposed to a lot of stuff. He just loved it. But like I said, when I first talked to Coach Davis about it, before I started coaching with him at CCC, he was kind of reluctant, like, yeah, I know everybody wants their kid. I'm like, no, I'm not one of those parents that want my son to play quarterback. I was a running back, so I wish he would have played running back, but he was real good at quarterback. So, but we got to be realistic. Parents, you got to have conversation with the high school coach, find out, how they do things, how they operate, right? You're not trying to tell that person, that coach, how he or she should run their program. You're concerned about your investment in your young person, your young student athlete. And that if they love the game enough and they're willing to, I never had to beg my son to train or to work out. Never. Never had. He would drive me crazy about wanting to go throw the football and work out, all that stuff. So that's one thing you young athletes have to do. You have to encourage yourself and pull your parents and drag them and say, hey, I need to go do such, I need to go get some training, and show them that you're committed to it, because it's going to pay off for you, right? And you see what I have here, the FAFSA. That's a free application for federal student assistance, right? And so that's coming up October 1st, right? So the different types of funding that you can help, like I said before, sports is a foolproof plan to help pay for or fund your child's or your young person's education if they are excelling in sports. And some types of funding that you have with that is athletic scholarships, right? We also have academic scholarships. I shared with you LG Webster preferred walk on at Oklahoma, because his academics were strong. He didn't get that full scholarship at the Oklahoma just yet, but he got a big academic scholarship because of his grades that got him a foot in the door with the football team, and he's excelling. And I don't doubt that he's going to earn that football scholarship eventually, right? So other types of funding would be financial aid, right, through the FAFSA, right? Grant money. There's institutional grant money, there's state grant money, and there's federal grant money if you qualify. And then now we have NIL and NCAA profit sharing opportunities, right? There are some kids are able to pay for their education if they needed to, because they have NIL and profit sharing opportunities. Because there's been talk about kids who earn a lot of NIL and profit sharing, not to give them an athletic scholarship, let them pay for it through that, which I don't think is right. If you have athletic scholarship and you want to keep this kid, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but there has been some talk that some of these kids are making, major money, but it's like, okay, well, NCAA, you were making billions of dollars off kids for 40, 50 plus years. You're going to keep giving that scholarship because the kids earn it. Don't give them a strike because now you gotta, kids have a right to get NIL, and you made billions of dollars off kids, off athletes, male and female athletes, for years. And so my question to you parents and you young athletes, do you want to improve your recruiting now? Do you want to do that? Because if you don't have any offers on the table and you're a junior or senior and you're here on this this webinar, right, you need some improvement, right? Because we want to get you some offers, and we know we can get you some offers. But you also got to provide some very good footage, video footage, game footage, right? And so I'm going to offer you the opportunity to sign up tonight for my digital course. It's going to be a 6-week course, showing you, it'll be a Tuesday and Thursday night that I'm looking at doing this. But with my digital college sports recruiting, it definitely will give you insight and tell you exactly what it is that you need to do, because we're coming up on December for early signing date, and we're coming up on February for you 26 kids, right? And you need to get some offers, right? And so I'm looking to do a 6-week commitment for those who are serious, right? From 6 to 7:30 Central, 7 to 8:30 Eastern time, right? And it'd be, like I said, 2 nights a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because I know we have games on Fridays. And so this is not just for high school kids, this is for middle school kids and up, right? This is what I want to work with. And so if you're interested, you can, share some information with you. And at the end of each night, we'll have a 15-minute Q&A sessions for parents to ask whatever questions they need to ask, right? And what steps they need to do to help boost up your young student athletes recruitment and exposure and opportunities. Okay, and so this is what you can do right now with this 6-week course to help your young student athletes recruiting improve right now, right? This is a picture of my son when he spent some time with the Giants as well. And so I just want to share my digital course is kind of, I'm gonna give a breakdown of what this value is, but I'm definitely not charging anybody anything at that price at all, nowhere near that. But I'm just giving a breakdown on what the value of this digital course is that I'll be giving. As I said, it'll be you're gonna get with my digital course, aside from just a digital course, you're also gonna get 1 hour evaluation with me. I usually charge about $150 when somewhere between $150 to do an evaluation, right? To sit down and talk with mom and dad, and also to talk with the student athlete, right? We also do cold email. I have a cold email sports recruiting letter and player profile template already prepared. All you have to do is take the template that I have and put your information in. I already have it set up and organized exactly how it should be, what needs to be said. You just need to plug in your information. So it's a template that I've already built. And that's I usually charge anywhere from $200 to $300. So I'm doing the high end, right? Because it's two different things. It's a recruiting letters, and it's also a player profile, like a resume, right? Of all your accolades as an athlete. And I already have that organized, and like I said, all you have to do is just put in your own personal information as a student athlete. You also would get with this digital course, in addition to the 6 weeks, you'll get an hour-and-a-half meeting twice a week. Well, as I said, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You'll be meeting with Coach Smith, as a group, whoever signs up. And so you're getting me an hour-and-a-half twice a week. And then I'll have a bonus. It's really 5 weeks, and then the 6th week is like a bonus session to where we'll just do a Q&A, right? And I'm also going to have some special guests, even like my son and some other people that you may be familiar with, college coaches, will come on and talk with you about what they look for when they recruited kids, to kind of help give you an inside understanding on what your young athlete needs to do and what you need to do as a parent. And then also you'll get some game video evaluation and improvement plan, right? So we'll evaluate your film. We'll look and see, are you showing, did you do a good job of preparing your highlight video, right? Because a lot of people I just recently this week had to tell some people what to correct their highlight video so that their athlete could stand out, that I just worked with, and giving some advice to several people this week. Because they got to do a better job of making sure that we know who your athlete is, that you're putting the right arrow in the circle, so that before the ball is snapped, those kinds of things. Also giving kids insight on how they're coming off the ball, if they're blocking, if they're a lineman, or if they're a running back, some things that they can do better, or receiver, DB. So that's what I mean when I say game video evaluation. And that's valued at about $300 to $500 in doing that, because I get detail. Strategic follow-up responses. Will help give you some strategic follow-up responses to college coaches via email or DMs, right? So we have those types of things already worked out, that if you need to send a DM to a coach, if you need to send some sort of email responses to a coach, because that's very crucial and important, that you know how to conversate with these college recruiters, then be sure you sell yourself to them, right? To where they want to recruit you, because they believe in your ability, not just on the field, but how you communicate and socialize with them, that you are somebody that they want to represent their team, right? So it's important that you know how to send appropriate emails and direct messages to college coaches. You also get, like I said, social media evaluation and improvement plan, right, is valued at about $500 to $700 in doing that, because a lot of you athletes don't know how to use it. I had to stay on my son about doing certain things with his social media. His generation was really the start of the X and social media, using Twitter to help with recruiting. And so I had to stay on top of him about certain things he needed to do with his social media. I mean, now he knows that stuff like the back of his hand. But a lot of you young athletes need some coaching on how to handle your social media, to where it doesn't, a coach looks at it the wrong way because you're not utilizing your social media the way you should. Also, some of you guys need some better weightlifting and speed training. I do these camps, and we do our development camps because we want to do them before you go to the college camps, because too many kids go to these camps and they do the drills and they do poor in the drills, and now they've hurt their recruiting at this particular level, whatever level it is you're going to, especially if it's at a Division I level. If you're not running at a certain 40 at a certain speed at your specific grade level, and most kids don't know how to run and they need training. And so I look at video, whether I'm there with you physically or you have one of your parents videotape you doing some drills, and I'll show you how to correct and talk to you. I think Grayson, who's on here, I think I helped him with he sent me some of his video doing his 40s, and I gave him some information on what I thought he needed to improve upon, and he's killing it right now as a freshman playing varsity football. And your parents will have an opportunity to join a private community on my Facebook, to where you'll have constant communication with Coach Smith. You'll have other videos everybody doesn't have access to. You'll have interviews with coaches. Even like my son will come on. He is going to help me out with it. He's a pro athlete, so he's going to come on and share. I'll have him do some things and share his, how he went about things, and tell you about what his dad did to help him be prepared to make it to the NFL for 6 seasons. And so that's another thing that, you'll get with this digital course offer. And also I have gear and different things like that. Also we're going to be doing some camps, and because you are partnering and joining, Love the Game 24/7 with the digital course, you'll get a discount for wherever you want to attend one of our camps. We'll probably be in your area, so you'll get a discount. All right, you'll get a discount on some of my LTG 24/7 gear, Love the Game 24/7 gear for the year. So these are some great things that come along with joining and partnering with Love the Game 24/7 and getting this digital course to help your athlete boost their recruiting and boost their opportunities in getting offers, right? And as I said, this digital course is valued well over $5,000. If you want to join today, it would be $349.99, and I'm going to start the digital course on October 23rd on a Thursday to get it kicked off. So if you decide you want to do that, you can join tonight. And for those of you who are on here tonight, I'm going to give an additional bonus of 15% off of the $349.99, which would make it $297. Because I'm not here to try to burn people for thousands of dollars. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you get the training and coaching that you need to help you get exposure to these college coaches, that your scholarship is going to be worth. My son's scholarship every year was worth almost $80,000 a year, right? So you times 80,000 times 4, right? 80,000 times 4, that's $320,000. I didn't have $320,000, but I had that other money that I was able to invest with Coach Kaleo paying $100 every weekend from 8th grade all the way to his first year in college, paying for private school. Everybody don't have to pay for private school, but I did that. My little coaching stipend that they paid went to his tuition to help pay for that, other than what me and my wife had to pay for his private education. But it paid off, and he graduated in 3.5 years with a degree in mass communications. And now he's big time because he made it to the NFL, as you see here. When he was in training camp with the Cardinals. He's a huge content creator and all that great stuff that he does outside of football that he enjoys doing. And so, as I said, if you're interested in joining tonight, you can join by PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, whatever it is you want to do if you're interested. And so I just want to thank you guys for taking the time, your time tonight, to join Coach Smith and being on this free webinar. And I definitely don't want to take up too much more people's time, but I just thank you guys for joining and taking the time being on here tonight. And so if there's any questions or anything like that, shoot them at me and Coach Pearson right now. And I see I had Jamar jump on. So Jamar, he's a big time D-line and O-line coach that did training camp, did summer football camps with us as well. But Ashton, or I know your dad is on. If there are any questions that you have as well from being on here tonight, I know some people probably had to jump off because we probably went a little later than I wanted to. But go ahead, and if there's any questions, go ahead and shoot them.
No, sir, no questions.
Okay, how about your dad? Did he have any questions? What was your cousin's name again? Pearson, his dad?
Monte Haley.
Okay, Monte. That's him with everything legendary, right?
Yep.
Okay. Did he have any questions or anything in the chat?
I didn't see anything.
Okay, no questions.
Yeah, I'm old, so I'm up here trying to figure out how to get the microphone working again. But
Okay,
yeah, it was good stuff, man. I learned a lot from hearing from you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take this all in and I'm gonna analyze all of this, and then we're gonna stay in touch through Steph. So
Okay, good deal.
So we can take the next steps that way.
Okay, and you said now he's basketball and what other sport?
He's basketball and football.
Okay,
So he plays for South Granville High School.
Okay, how's the season going?
I think they're 1-4 right now, and all of them are close games.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay.
And he's getting significant playing time with just being a freshman.
And is he on varsity or is he on JV?
He's on varsity.
Oh, good. Okay, and what position was it again?
So he's playing running back
Okay.
right now, and he's on kickoff return.
Okay, all right, that's what's up. Okay.
And they're trying to work him. They're trying to work him into defense too as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good
So
stuff, man.
and then we're always capturing highlight film of him all the time. So
Okay.
We'll have that wrapped up. That
Yeah.
side of things, like tape to look at.
Yeah, you definitely we can take time and and do that if you're interested in joining this. So I just wanted to share that with some folks tonight. And I know there's some kids that DM me that we recorded this, so I'll share it with some of them to get them going. But I appreciate you, man. Take